Hi, I'm Logan Medish, and this is High Caliber History. Today, I'm at Lewis and Grant Auctions, and I'm looking at some of the fine firearms that they have coming up in their May 2021 Arms and Armor sale. What I've got in front of me here is a Starr carbine, and it's actually a prototype Starr carbine, and we'll get into exactly what specifies this to be a prototype in a minute, but first off, I want to address the fact that the Starr carbine is a bit of a tragic story from the Civil War era. There were a number of makers of carbines during the Civil War, but there were kind of a big five. And Starr really just managed to eke its way into the top five with just over 25,000 carbines produced. The Starr family of gun makers was a distinguished group of individuals. Ebenezer T. Starr, the inventor of the Starr carbine and revolver, was born in 1816 in Middleton, Connecticut. Ebenezer was the son of Nathan S. Starr Jr. and the grandson of Nathan S. Starr Sr. Now, both of the elder Starrs were well established in the armaments business and were renowned for having fulfilled numerous government contracts for swords and firearms starting in 1795. So the family had a long history of building and delivering quality arms and swords and other military material to the United States government. Now, initial trials for the .54 caliber percussion Starr carbines were lauded by military officials such as John Dahlgren and William Bell. They noted that they could shoot hundreds of rounds through the gun at distances out to 600 yards with very little fouling and a tremendous amount of accuracy. And, not having the gun foul is a big deal. Black powder is incredibly dirty, and when you're dealing with a breech loading gun like this with lots of moving parts in the breech block mechanism, that fouling builds up, that burnt powder residue is there, the unburnt powder is there, and it can really gum up the inner workings of the gun and prevent it from firing. So the fact that they had little to no issues with that was really, really cool and was a huge feather in the cap for Starr. Unfortunately, the troops in the field were sending in reports that were the exact opposite. They were noting that the gun was subject to hang fires, and they were also noting that it took multiple percussion caps to fire just one round, that there was an improper alignment between the barrel and the breech block, and so on and so forth. So how is it that you have such glowing reviews from the top military brass, and yet the soldiers in the field are incredibly disappointed with the gun? How do they get to be so very different? Enter Major Peter Hagner, and he was the inspector of contract arms in 1863. Now, Hagner screwed up and told James Ripley that the Starr carbine used the same cartridges as the Sharps carbine, and they don't. They looked similar, which is why he wrongly assumed that they would be interchangeable. And so this is where the unfortunate reviews from the field come, because in order to simplify the supply chain and getting arms and ammunition into the field, instead of having to separate Starr and Sharps carbines and Starr and Sharps cartridges, they were just issuing them all with Sharps cartridges. And that's where the field reports come in about the failures of the hang fires and so on and so forth. So it was poor research from Major Hagner that doomed the Starr carbine, the percussion Starr carbine, at the beginning and the middle of the Civil War. But Starr didn't let this get them down. In 1865, they created a .52 caliber rimfire version, which is what's sitting here in front of me. And in fact, this is the prototype for that rimfire version. It has a 21-inch barrel. It's got a case-hardened frame and ladder sights here that stretch all the way out to 800 yards, which may or may not actually be possible. We'd mentioned that there were reports from military brass with the percussion version that they were hitting targets accurately out to 600 yards. So, maybe they could do it out to 800 with this gun. That's yet to be seen. But there are very little in the way of markings on this gun. We have information on the side of the gun, and we've got a little bit of information up on the top of the gun, just noting that they are Starr manufactured in New York. But there are no government proof marks anywhere on the gun. There's in fact not even a serial number on the gun, so that this is a true prototype firearm here. This is the birth of the rimfire version of the Starr carbine. Now, since this is a prototype version of the Starr carbine, it's got some features with the breech block that you're not going to see on the standard percussion gun. So down here is a little catch on the trigger guard that allows you to release the breech block, which then comes down by way of swinging the trigger guard forward and gives you access into the chamber of the gun. But where we have differences is that when this breech block comes down, we've actually got an extractor that's moving in here to pull on the bottom rim of the cartridge. And then once the cartridge is ejected, the extractor mechanism moves back forward so that it's in place to catch the rim of the next cartridge that you're going to put into the gun. And then you close the breech block, cock your hammer, and it's ready to fire once again. Now, of course, there's no firing pin on the face of the hammer. It's internal on the gun, and you can see the firing pin is down in here. Let me get you a different angle here. And the firing pin is actually on the side of the breech face down in there, and it's on the side, of course, because this is a rimfire gun. So it's really cool that even though their percussion gun wasn't as successful as it could have been through no fault of Starr and through military incompetence, they didn't let it bother them, and they continued to go on and develop new arms, such as this rimfire design, which was a big deal at that time, to have a self-contained metallic cartridge instead of just powder and ball being poured into your barrel and then fired with a percussion cap. Even if you could do that with a breech loading design, to have all of it contained in one unit so that you could load it and fire it from the breech was an absolute game changer. Rimfire cartridges were on the cutting edge of design when Starr came out with this gun in 1865. And so to have the prototype version of that here in front of me is a really cool experience. It's really special to have this gun here, and some very happy someone will add it to their collection from the Lewis and Grant auction in May 2021. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and we'll see you right here on the next episode of High Caliber History.